Welcome to this lesson on federal question under federal subject matter jurisdiction. So a federal question is really, again, quite simple. And all it requires is that the complaint or the case that is being brought into federal court must arise under federal law, the US Constitution, or a US treaty. And when it's being brought in, it must be brought in on the face. It must be present. That federal question must be present on the face of that complaint, and it has to be a well-pled complaint. It needs to be clear that this is a federal question arising under federal law, the US Constitution, or a US treaty. So where you want to be looking for and what you want to be looking for in exams is it a federal question? Is the plaintiff who's bringing the complaint, have they actually made it clear on the face of their complaint that it's a federal question? It must arise out of the plaintiff's complaint, and it can't be brought in like anticipation of the defense bringing some kind of federal question like a constitutional right. For example, if a plaintiff was bringing a breach of contract case and they were saying, yeah, this is our case, and they're bringing it into federal court, but then they think, oh, I bet they're going to bring up some kind of amendment right in defense of this, so we'll be ready for it and we'll counter it with that. It's not enough to keep it in federal court under federal question. The plaintiff themselves must have been able to present it on the face of their complaint as a federal question arising under federal law, the US Constitution, or US treaties. So when you're thinking breach of contract, it's not something that is governed typically by federal law, whereas like patent or copyright, things like that, is what would come under federal law because it's literally part of federal law. So that's a different story. But where it's, if the other side is bringing it up and the plaintiff themselves haven't, and then it's kind of intertwining, then they want to counter, that is not enough to allow the case to be entered under federal question jurisdiction. So when you're doing exams, looking at MBEs and MEEs, you'll be looking for scenarios. Again, it's not going to be as clear cut as define federal question or what is federal question jurisdiction. They are going to present you with a fact pattern, and sometimes it actually will be, so don't always think it's a trick question. Sometimes it actually will be allowed under federal question jurisdiction if it falls under one of those things: federal law, the US Constitution, or the US treaty. So if you see amendments, amendment rights, 14th Amendment, it could be any of those. If it comes under federal law or the US Constitution or some kind of US treaty, honestly, it's more common with federal law and the US Constitution, especially with like amendment rights and civil rights and things like that, then you'll know it will be allowed in under federal question. But it won't be evoked unless the plaintiff actually places it and, you know, states it on the face of their well-pled complaint. So yeah, that's basically federal question jurisdiction. So as long as it's there on the face of a plaintiff's well-pled complaint, then it will be allowed in under federal question.